In 2007, I lived in a house in Green Island that was established for people who were in the process of becoming priests, seminarians and discerners. And at the end of the semester, they moved out of the house, but I remained because I was teaching at the time at St. Pius School in Loudonville. So this house that had had 4 people in it now just had 1. And then one night, across the street, there was a major house fire. It was a very dramatic fire, and it wound up leaving a family homeless. And it triggered a very strange reaction in me that maybe you have heard of or have experienced in your own life or of somebody else that you love. I wound up feeling this anxious feeling after the fire that there was someone in the house. It was like an anxiety response to what I saw. And I didn't recognize at first that it was triggered by the fire, but I would come home and I would always think, I think there's someone upstairs. I think I hear someone upstairs. And it bothered me because I thought, this is not good. So I talked to my friend, who is a therapist, and I told him, I'm having this weird fixation on thinking there's somebody upstairs. And he said, well, what are you doing about it? When you come home, what do you do? And I say, I just power through it. I tell myself, there's no one upstairs. There's no one upstairs. And he gave me some surprising advice. He said, next time, tell yourself, there is someone upstairs. But when I go up there, I can trust my instincts. I'll know what to do. I'll know how to handle it. The gospel tonight says, what if there is someone upstairs? What if the temple does get destroyed? What if? What would you do then? Are you plagued by what ifs? All of us are on some level, but some of us more than others. What if? For a lot of us, it's money. What if my investments? What if the stock market? What if my pension? What if? For others, it's their children. Those are unspeakable. I'm not even going to give examples. What if? We can't even say it. Sometimes it's even political stuff, right? What if that politician gets in office? What if? Just total fear of what could happen. And Jesus tonight is introducing us to a very important distinction to deal with the what ifs. He's introducing us to the difference between hope and hopes. Sounds like the same thing, but they're actually different. Most of us have hopes, and we don't realize that they're actually different than hope. Hopes are rooted in outcomes. They're the kind of things that we'll often ask other people to pray for. Father, pray that my granddaughter gets into Notre Dame. She's finding out this week. Pray that I get this job, or pray that this happens. Pray that the closing goes through for the house. Those are all hopes. And there's nothing wrong with them. They're not bad. But have you ever noticed that every once in a while it's hard to pray for someone's hopes? Something doesn't feel right about it? Like, if someone says to me, pray that my granddaughter gets into Notre Dame, there's a part of me that's afraid to do it because I'm like, what if she doesn't belong at Notre Dame? What if the person she's supposed to meet is going to Boston College? I'm afraid to pray for something when I don't have enough information, and neither does the grandmother. Have you ever had somebody say, pray that I get back together with my girlfriend or my boyfriend? We broke up, but pray that we get back together. How do I know if that's really the best thing? Maybe that relationship ended for a reason. So those are all hopes. Hopes are always based in an outcome, and they're sometimes hard to pray for because you find yourself wondering in the back of your mind, what if this isn't the right thing? What Jesus wants us to do is steer away from hopes and move toward hope, which is a stance of just trusting life. It's an attitude of trusting life. I choose to trust that whatever happens, I'm going to be able to face it with God's help. My grandmother used to have a little magnet on her fridge that said, "Don't worry about tomorrow. God is already there." So hope says, what if this thing does happen? It could. I have no power to stop it. I trust that God will be with me. I trust that I will find a way. I trust that life is trustworthy. It says in the Bible, as you know, 3 things last beyond everything else: faith and hope and love. Hope. It's what lasts beyond the hopes. It's what you have when your granddaughter gets the rejection letter from Notre Dame. It's what you have. It's what never leaves. So Jesus is telling them in the gospel terrible news. It's a terrible story, really. They're looking at this beautiful temple. I almost fear to draw the analogies between that one and ours. And they say, wouldn't it be a shame if anything ever happened to this? And he said, it will. Oh, it will. And hard times are coming, folks. He said, you're going to get persecuted. But, he says, not a hair on your head will be harmed. Even if the worst happens, even if they kill you, don't panic. God can even get you through that. All of our what ifs that we have, including the one about the temple, are invitations for us to pivot from hopes toward hope, towards something that is stronger than any outcome and doesn't involve having to wager anything at all. I heard some news this week from my hometown. Many of you know that I grew up in Rochester, and there was news from the church there. The Diocese of Rochester moved toward a settlement with survivors of abuse and announced that there was a $55 million settlement that they were moving toward in bankruptcy court coming from the diocese and the parishes. And I had been following that story because the Diocese of Rochester, my home diocese where I grew up, declared bankruptcy 3 years ago. And I was shocked when that happened. And then I remained shocked when the Diocese of Buffalo declared bankruptcy, where I went to college. And then Syracuse, where I lived in Utica for several years, they declared bankruptcy. And the whole Diocese of Long Island declared bankruptcy. So of course, as a priest, I asked myself, what if we go bankrupt? And you may have noticed, if you've been reading the diocesan newspaper, that could happen. We're in the middle of negotiating with the survivors of abuse in our diocese, and there's a big story about it in the Evangelist that you can look up online. We'll make it easy for you to do that. But we're being asked, what if? A real what if? What if we do? After all, we're not that different from a place like Rochester or Syracuse or Buffalo. What if? And of course, saying, oh, God forbid we go bankrupt, that would be investing in hopes. We're being introduced to the thought, what if it does happen? We get to have hope no matter what, that God would see us through that. Whenever we're facing a what if, it's an invitation to turn away from hopes and move toward hope. And that's why Jesus says to them, what if the temple itself is gone? Can you imagine having faith if the temple were destroyed? Real life examples are what allow us to peek around the corner and see what we're doing in our life with the what ifs. Because hope is the chance to see the bigger picture, that our ancestors went through trials and that we're going to go through trials. And it means that we choose to trust in life. It's a little difficult because, of course, it would be natural for me to pray, I hope the diocese doesn't go bankrupt. But that might be a little bit like praying, I hope my granddaughter gets into Notre Dame. What if bankruptcy actually is a road to freedom? What if that's the way that we put the past 20 years behind us? What if that's the way to achieve justice for people who deserve it? What if that's the lesson that will ensure for the generations to come, this will not happen again? We have learned and we are moving forward. I couldn't believe it when my friend, the therapist, said, imagine there is someone upstairs. What a great opportunity to trust. So this week I ask you, what's your most niggling what if in life? What's the one that makes you go, oh, please, Lord? Is there a chance you could apply hope to that? Is there a chance that you could say, I know we will be able to face that. I know whatever it is, God would be there with us. For many things in life, we learn through our struggles that the only way out is through. So I choose to believe that my grandmother had it right, that we don't need to worry about tomorrow. God is already there.